Hey guys, Mike here. So another jam-packed video for you, and Friday was an interesting day in the market, right? I mean, we had small caps down once again. Here come the Qs roaring up. The S&P did something, which I'll show you, accomplished something, which is important. And of course, Tesla had an enormous day, which we'll talk about that, and the implication for other companies or stocks you might have seen that went down on that same news. But I did want to start off with something, sometimes you run across an interview that makes you feel uncomfortable in a way. And I ran across this interview. Who's this guy? He's in the financial business and stuff. But when you're watching it, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you thought. I could just immediately, I knew I was like, wow, something's wrong here. Like something's going off script. This guy seems really frustrating, right? And people can't get a word in edgewise and everything. And then I found out why, and I'll show you exactly why. And I want to show this because I'm telling you, we've all been here. Whether people want to admit it or not, we've all been here. I've been here. But let me know what you think real quick about this.
These conversations that we're having about this technology, next week, Apple is having their worldwide developers forum. They have been using a thing called Siri that is based on artificial intelligence and machine learning for 10 freaking years, okay? So these are investments that they've been making. There's a product that a lot of people think sucks, okay? And if you're telling me that this H100 chip that Jensen Huang is telling everybody is going to need to have is going to make it finally good, well, then I'm taking the over on that because we've been using it for 10 years and it stinks, okay? They've been buying the most advanced chips for 10 years. They've been developing the most advanced chips for years using their own R&D budgets to do that. I think Microsoft's been doing this, Google's been doing this, Amazon's been doing this.
I agree.
Tesla's been doing this.
Okay, so my point is,
Meta's
been doing it.
Meta's been doing this.
In fact, Meta is probably as better positioned as any of these companies, and especially when you add in their reels and some of the things.
Yeah. Remember November 2021 when what's his name, Zuckerberg, renamed the company the Metaverse, and this was going to be the next thing, and it almost was $1 trillion market cap company, and then it lost 80% of its market value.
Because he doesn't have to talk about the Metaverse right
so
now.
all I'm saying is, how about it, people? Go buy your Nvidia right here at $1 trillion market cap. If this ends up being a 1 or 2 quarter phenomenon, because every major company and every small crappy company has to do this, and then they realize that they overspend and the opportunity to commercialize it is not here, and then they pull back like the Metaverse spending, or they pull back like Web3, or they pull back like crypto. Okay, we've seen all of this in the last 5 years.
I do see a scenario in which
it's different. Tell me why it's different.
No.
Okay.
I was going to actually acknowledge that there might be a scenario here where companies are going to front load some of their spend on this, and so the comps will get more difficult a year out. Yeah. But that's a year out.
And then, of course, the next day I found out why, because I'm assuming he got feedback last week about that interview.
Yeah, I just want to say one other thing, too. And so if you're listening to this, you probably notice a different tone here. This is not kind of a throw in the towel or anything like that. I mean, for me, and I think I've been very clear on this, and I talk basically almost every day on this sort of stuff. So if you're listening to us now, you probably listen to Guy and me in Market Call, or, the other on the tape that we do, or the OK Computer or Fast Money or whatever. I mean, listen, I've been my performance trading in the last 4 months has been about as bad as it's ever been. But I can tell you this, and I mean this sincerely. I mean, I feel about as good of our commentary at any time, because if all you want to do is turn on the folks with the pom-poms all day long, I mean, Guy, and I know you kind of have some similar feelings about this. When I think about making a story, a bull case or a bear case on a name, I want to know what the other side of it is, right? And so I think on a lot of levels, you could say, all right, well, that Nathan guy, he's a great contrarian indicator. That's fine. I mean, I'm right more than I'm wrong, and that's the main crux of this game here. But I think my analysis is usually fairly spot on, and sometimes just kind of getting the market timing and the sizing and all that sort of stuff right. That's the hard part here.
Market makes us has the ability to humble us all, and it's done it for me I'm going on, I think, 36 years or so in this business, and it's remarkable. I say it all the time, and I think both of you would acknowledge this. There are times when you could tell me 2 or 3 days prior all the news that's going to come out and say, this is what's going to happen. We want you to trade on the back of that, and I will do things that'll be completely opposite of what's going to happen. So even if you know outcomes, sometimes you're going to be wrong in the market, and I think that's where I find myself right now.
I understand. When I did a little research, I mean, he's been shorting. I believe he started shorting. I know he started shorting Nvidia. But then I think Tesla as well, and other stocks like that, because when he's trying to look on the fundamental side of things, and fundamentals have checked out. You know, it's just from my research. But we've all been there, right? I mean, I was that way when I bought Google too early because I thought it was going to be treated like Apple, and instead it was Microsoft was the darling, treating like Apple. And I had my thesis I shared with you guys on that. Was wrong, you know, green in the position now. It took a while, especially when I dollar cost average down, but you know, we've all been there where your timing's off because you're not going to time the market perfectly, and you're trying to go off fundamentals, but my fundamentals have checked out completely, right, of the market. And so, in this AI phenomenon, and he is correct, you know, and I've kind of touched base on that but it takes time for people to realize, like, oh, yes, this company did monetize, these companies did not, and of course those companies will suffer, but that takes, what is it going to be, 1, 2, 3 earnings cycles before that happens? You know, that's what we got to find out, right? And so that's kind of key. So he makes some good points. I mean, I remember when the internet came out. You know, I told you guys about that, and it was like, oh, everybody's gonna make it, you know, gazillion dollars, and many companies failed. So you know, we'll see how that goes. Now, when it comes to Nvidia, this is one of the things he's talking about, right? They're selling chips and stuff. But in order for them to grow into their valuation, they got to start hitting these metrics, right? So revenue growth for their data centers, which you keep hearing about, right? It's 2023 now. Well, what is that, like 14% or something right there on revenue? I'm sorry, 14 billion, excuse me. And they're going to grow, this says in 2 years to 2025, close to 38 billion. And so that's a big move, right? And so they have to be able to do that. I mean, next year they're saying they're going to do close to, it was like 30 billion or something. And revenues will double other data centers. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't, you know, we got to wait and see, right? And that leads me into the Buffett indicator. I only use this for a couple of things, but I like to track it every month to see, because the Buffett indicator had been saying stocks were actually fairly valued. And then for the first time in a long time, it says no, now they're overvalued. And what it is a ratio of the total United States stock market to GDP. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And I don't know if it's still relevant because so many companies, when this was invented, you know, global companies like Apple and stuff and all that wasn't around. And so, you know, as far as I know. And so keep that in mind, a lot of companies make half the revenue outside the United States now. So I think that's why when you see the chart, you'll say, oh, okay, well, maybe it isn't as relevant as it was, but now they're saying it's overvalued compared to GDP. What I like to look at this for is, if it ever reaches 2 standard deviations above, you can see we get massive sell-offs, all right? And we went above 2 standard deviations in 2021 and had a massive sell-off, but we only reached 1 standard deviation before we corrected, right? But you can see in other instances, we went from 2 standard deviations all the way below to 1 standard deviation below the average, the historical line right there. And the question is, I mean, we haven't been below even the 0 line. Since like 2013, we haven't been below, we got down to 1 standard deviation below the average since 2010. Like, are we ever going to go back there? I mean, honestly, in the next 10 to 15 years, that's a big question I have. So let me know. But that's what I actually like to look at this for, because it's pretty, you can see plain as day. You get 1 standard deviation below, we're moving, that's definitely a close to a bottom, right? And you get a big move up. And if you're ever 2 standard deviations out, you can see it'll go above some now, but you're getting ready for a big move down. So that's what I kind of like to look at this for, but that's just me. But finally, it did say, because of this AI pump, oh yeah, they're overvalued. And guys, before we continue, if you're getting anything out of this, please hit that thumbs up down there. I really appreciate it. And if you like the material here and the videos, think about subscribing. And of course, that's not all stocks, right? Because it's the stock market compared to GDP, and we know what's been moving the stock market is the big mega caps, right? So keep that in mind when they say overvalued. They're talking about the stock market as a whole. So, and what is it? This is a stock picker's market. That's what it is, okay? And so keep that in mind when we're talking about that. Now, getting into what the S&P actually accomplished was the SPY ETF actually made it above its August highs. The S&P 500 index did not, okay? And you'll see that the SPY right here doesn't look like it made it above it, but it did for a brief second there. It made it right there, and then boom, sold back off, went back down into this area we talked about where it was cooling up and everything. It was either accumulation or distribution. At that time, it was accumulation. Good thing is it filled that gap, which is always a good thing to see. And so we'll see if we get to move back up. But the big thing people are looking for is to turn this into, or that new line, new high right there, into support, right? And so that's the big thing to look out for on that. When we look at the RSI, is it trying to tell us something here? I don't know. Sellers are trying to come in on this one because this is a big line of resistance, right? And so we'll see. I mean, this is where if bears are out there, they're really trying hard to push us down and not let it break it and turn it into support for sure. But again, we're not overbought on the daily. So it still has room to run if it wants to. And you can see the levels that are coming up next of 440, 455. So just keep that in mind right there if it continues to run. And then, of course, IWM was the opposite, right? We had 2 days of red, and this has gone down. Dip buyers have been coming in on this because this has gone down like 1 to 2% each of the last 2 days, and dip buyers have come in and pushed it back up, or at least tried to hold it up. But you can see, and I agree with, I heard somebody talking about in an interview, and this is that big resistance area, right? I mean, that's really all that matters. We can't make it through that. You know, all this is hyperbole, okay? But like somebody was talking about, those 2 big moves up, like, is it normal? No. What I tell you, you can tell by how big the moves were that, yeah, you had rotation, but that was causing short covering, right? I've showed you multiple examples of that where you got stocks that are literally missing earnings, maybe a little beat, but they were so shorted 20% of their float, and they're such small floats, you know, that they ended up and skyrocketing 20, 30% in one day. Right, and then the regional banks have been on fire, but of course yesterday the regional banks were not on fire, right? And so that's what's causing it. And I mean, and this is one of those indexes, unlike the Qs, when it gets overbought, it's like a trigger, boom, it's gonna take a breather, right? And so you can see that's what's happening right there. But again, the bulls are trying to make sure this RSI does not cross below 50. They don't want that. They don't want the MACD crossing the 0 line. And so again, still looking bullish for small caps at this point in time. Again, this has nothing to do with the environment it's in, because the environment economically is a mess for small caps right now. And so just keep that in mind. And I say, yes, this is a technical bounce, right? And we're going to see if it makes through that resistance area. Yeah, of course, it's got legs, right? That's the key. Now, Tesla, huge day, huge gap up. I mean, everything was up 8% at one point in time during the day. And again, going to the daily here, you can see, I mean, this is, we talked about it before, heavy overhead supply area, right? Where a lot of people sell and stuff, and it hit it, sold back off. But of course, that's just a gigantic move, right? And so, you know, and this is obviously a news-related event, okay? And so for those who had calls, who sold them the day before, I saw this on Twitter, I saw it in the Discord, don't beat yourself up. This is a news event. There's no way, unless you had insider knowledge, you knew the news came out, which I'm going to show you in just a second, you know, that was going to happen. So don't sweat it. It happens to everybody. And you can see how overbought this thing is, right? I mean, it's up to 85 now, I believe. And again, it's a stock, though. It can get up there and stay overbought for quite a few days. So we're going to see how long that's sustainable. But again, you will have profit taken. That's normal. We've seen it on the way up. That's actually healthy, right? And so you don't want to straight line up like a meme stock or anything. And this is the news right here that came out. So you got GM to use Tesla charging network, right? And Ford had already come out and said this. And of course, what this is going to do is by 2030, it's estimated they'll get about $3 billion in revenue. Obviously, I don't think it was even configured into the earnings forecast, so that's big. The other thing you're seeing happening is people are still shorting Tesla, like the guy at the beginning of the video, right? And he's actually talking to one of the big short guys who's had a short on Tesla forever. And you can see short sellers have basically are down about $6.1 billion just in the last 11 trading sessions, all right, according to S3 Partners. And you can believe it. And that's why this, and when that gapped up like that, boom, I mean, shorts are getting destroyed. And I'm sure some people probably covered if they saw that news, but that's also what happens, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, if you're in another charging company, what do you see happen, right? This tells you, hey, who's number one? Tesla has got the number one charging network. So what happened at ChargePoint? 13% drop. And they're the biggest of the other companies who are into the charging, right? Got Blink charging. Again, what's this one down? This was down 90%. And as a side note, if over the last 2 weeks of me covering Tesla, you got the feeling I'm saying sell your Tesla stock, put it in the comments. I'm just curious if somebody had made a comment the other day about something, and I thought, wow, if you're getting the idea that I'm telling you to sell the stock or buy the stock or whatever, I'm doing a really bad job of verbalizing what I'm trying to do on this platform, which is give you the information because you're mature, you're smart, you can make your own decisions and stuff. So I'm just curious about that because obviously I thought when I kept saying for 2 weeks now that, you know, it's expected for it to go between 230, 240 and stuff like that. And a lot of calls are coming in and everything else. And also understand if I do make the phrase it's due for a pullback, that doesn't mean that 20% pullback, right? When something's in an uptrend, especially like Tesla's a momentum stock. When it's in an uptrend, it's hard to break that thing, right? Especially with all the call buying coming in and everything else and people pushing it up, the short covering, things like that. So just want to ask and get your feedback on that. So just let me know, please. Now, AMD, this is another beast. Semiconductors came back Friday. Again, it's hitting heavy overhead supply right here. Gapped up Friday after a little consolidation there. If you go to the weekly, actually, let me go back to the daily here, and you can just see what I'm talking about with this overhead supply. But if it makes it through that, if it's able to keep pushing, 133 is your next level, 142, right? And I'm not saying it's going to reach all-time highs because semiconductors are cyclical, but they're just on fire. I mean, 163 is the high. Will it make it there? I don't know. And I don't think anybody would say no is a fool because in this market, you don't know, right? You're talking about 4% to the next level, 10% to that level. To get the all-time high 27%, people say, that'll never happen. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. But look, if I asked you back in October, would AMD be up 137% in 248 days? Most people probably would have said no. Maybe be up 20%, whatever. But no, it's more than doubled. And so, again, these semiconductors are just on fire. And AMD is kind of like NVIDIA's stepchild when it comes to, or stepbrother, when it comes to AI, right? That's what it is. The AI craze, the AI craze, the AI craze. But I will say one thing about this chart, and one of our members turned me on to this. It is the most orderly chart I think I've ever seen on a stock. I mean, look at this thing, how it follows the RSI. If you put the MACD up, it's even better. But I mean, it stair steps up, stair steps down so smoothly. Like it's insane. I know a couple of people that literally just play AMD every day when they day trade. And in tomorrow's video, I'll definitely set us up for the week when we're talking about earnings, a lot of economic stuff. But remember I told you Thursday, the reminder, if you didn't see that video, not only you got CPI coming out, inflation, right? You have FOMC, which we don't think they're going to do a rate hike anyway. But more importantly, you got monthly OPEX on top of quad witching, okay? And I've already told sent out to the members and everything about what quad witching is and all that good stuff. So, that's going to be a huge week next week. So if it's not volatile, I'm going to be stunned, right? I'm talking about big moves in intraday for sure. But we'll see what the market makers and the options market wants to do, okay? So that's going to be a big one. So, if you got anything out of it, hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it, guys. Again, let me know if you like these on Friday or Saturday. Most people are saying Saturday. That's why I'm just putting it out today. Again, so majority rules. And anyway, so hope you guys come out of it. Hope you have a great rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you tomorrow.